Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the Dark Side of Crime. In today's story, we delve into a chilling and mysterious case, one that has haunted investigators for years. Welcome to Unsolved Murder in the Shadows, the Chilling Truth. The case we're about to explore has baffled authorities, left countless leads untraced, and left an entire community in fear. This is a tale of shadows, cryptic clues, and haunting twists. A murder that remains unsolved to this day, with the truth lurking just out of reach. Today, we examine every detail, every piece of evidence, and every conflicting testimony that continues to keep the killer hidden in the dark. The quiet town of Laurel Ridge was a small town that had a reputation for being peaceful. Its people lived quiet lives, filled with routine and predictability. Nestled on the edge of the Blue Mountains, the town offered stunning views, fresh air, and a sense of safety that most residents took for granted. It was the kind of place where children played in the streets, and neighbors exchanged pleasantries over backyard fences. At the heart of this seemingly perfect town was Rachel Monroe, a 34-year-old teacher who had lived in Laurel Ridge for the better part of a decade. Known for her dedication to her students, Rachel was someone everyone admired. She volunteered at the local food bank, tutored struggling students, and always had a kind word for those around her. To the town, she was a beacon of warmth in a cold world. But everything changed that fateful night on August 22nd. Rachel was found dead in an abandoned cabin on the outskirts of town, her lifeless body discovered by a passing hiker. The scene was horrific. Rachel had been brutally attacked, her body left sprawled across the cold wooden floor with a look of terror frozen on her face. What was most eerie, however, was the strange note found in her hand, written in a hurried scrawl. The shadows know. The town was shaken to its core. Who would kill Rachel Monroe, and why? Chapter 2. The investigation begins. Detective Carla Torres was assigned to the case. She had been with the Laurel Ridge Police Department for over 15 years, but this was unlike any case she had encountered before. At first glance, it seemed like a simple murder, a robbery gone wrong, perhaps, or a crime of passion. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that there was something more sinister at play. Rachel's family was devastated by the loss, but none more so than her younger sister, Emma Monroe. Rachel had been Emma's rock, her confidant and best friend. The two were inseparable, and Emma couldn't fathom who would want to harm her sister. Driven by grief and a need for answers, Emma became more involved in the investigation than anyone could have expected. She began asking questions that no one else dared to ask. She pushed the police to delve into Rachel's personal life, searching for clues that might explain the crime. What she uncovered shocked her. Rachel had been hiding secrets that no one knew about. Rachel had been involved in a secret relationship with a former student, David Foster. David was 16 years old, troubled, and had a history of getting into trouble. Rachel had kept the relationship hidden from everyone, including Emma. Why? And why had Rachel kept this part of her life a secret? Emma's suspicions grew, and soon she became fixated on the idea that David might have had something to do with her sister's death. But there was no concrete evidence to support her theory. Rachel's colleagues and friends described David as a quiet, withdrawn boy, but no one had ever suspected him of being violent. Chapter 3. The cryptic call weeks went by, and the investigation hit a standstill. The police were no closer to finding Rachel's killer than they had been on the night of her murder. That was until one fateful night when the phone rang at the Laurel Ridge Police Department. The voice on the other end was garbled, distorted, as though the caller was trying to disguise their identity. The message was short, but it sent chills down Detective Torres's spine. "You're looking in the wrong place. Look into the shadows, and you'll find your answer." The police scrambled to trace the call, but it had been made from a burner phone. The number was untraceable and the voice couldn't be identified. Despite this, the cryptic message stuck with the investigators. Could it be a clue? A piece of the puzzle that would finally reveal the killer's identity? The phrase, "the shadows," kept repeating in Torres's mind. Was it a metaphor? Or was the killer trying to tell them something about the location or circumstances of the crime? With no new leads to follow, the case remained stagnant. But the shadowy message left everyone with an unsettling feeling. Who was behind it all? And why were they taunting the police? Chapter 4. The Web of Lies. As Emma delved deeper into Rachel's life, she discovered that her sister had been keeping more secrets than she realized. Rachel's relationship with David Foster had been secretive, but it was only the tip of the iceberg. The more Emma investigated, the more she uncovered. Rachel had been involved in multiple charity organizations, and in the months leading up to her death, she had been dealing with a series of anonymous threats. At first, Rachel had brushed them off, thinking they were harmless pranks. But as the threats escalated, she became more cautious, even going so far as to install security cameras around her home. Emma had never known about these threats, but in the aftermath of Rachel's murder, they suddenly seemed significant. Could Rachel have been targeted by someone connected to her charity work? Or was the cause of her death tied to something darker, something hidden beneath the surface of her personal life? Emma began to suspect that the killer might be someone close to Rachel. Was David involved in the murder, or had someone else in Rachel's life betrayed her? The more Emma learned, the more she realized how little she truly knew about her sister's world. Chapter 5. The Shadowy Figure. As the investigation continued, more strange reports surfaced. Several witnesses claimed to have seen a tall, cloaked figure near the cabin on the night of Rachel's murder. The figure was described as having an unsettling presence, someone who seemed to fade into the darkness, impossible to identify clearly. At first, the police dismissed these sightings as the result of an overactive imagination. But as more and more people came forward with similar accounts, the investigators began to wonder if this figure could be the key to solving the crime. Who was this mysterious person? Why had they been near the scene of the crime? One of the witnesses, an elderly woman named Margaret Harris, recalled seeing the figure through her window. She had been too scared to call the police at the time, but after hearing about Rachel's murder, she knew she had to come forward. Margaret described the figure as tall, with a long coat and hood, and standing perfectly still in the shadows. She said it felt as though the figure was waiting for something, perhaps for Rachel to arrive at the cabin. But despite the growing number of reports, no one could identify the shadowy figure. It remained a mystery, adding to the growing web of confusion surrounding the case. Chapter 6. The Hidden Agenda. Emma continued her relentless pursuit of the truth, even when the police seemed ready to give up. The more she uncovered, the more sinister the case became. As she dug deeper into Rachel's finances, she discovered something disturbing. Rachel had a life insurance policy worth over $1 million, with her estranged husband, Andrew Monroe, as the primary beneficiary. Andrew had been living in another city at the time of the murder, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She began looking into Andrew's financial activities, and what she found made her blood run cold. Just days before Rachel's death, Andrew had withdrawn large sums of money from their joint accounts. Could he have been involved in his wife's murder, planning her death for the life insurance payout? Emma's suspicions grew as she dug deeper into Andrew's recent activities. He had no alibi for the night of Rachel's murder, and his demeanor during interviews was eerily calm, almost as if he had no concern for his wife's death. Was Andrew Monroe guilty of orchestrating his wife's murder, or was he merely a pawn in a much larger, more complicated scheme? Chapter 7. Conflicting Testimonies. As the weeks dragged on, the investigation seemed to stall. Every piece of evidence was either inconclusive or conflicting, and the more the police interviewed witnesses, the more confusing the case became. The conflicting testimonies from various people only deepened the mystery. David Foster, the 16-year-old student who had been secretly involved with Rachel, became a primary focus of the investigation. His initial statement, given shortly after Rachel's body was found, had been vague and unclear. He claimed to have been at home that night, but as Detective Torres dug deeper, she discovered that David had lied about his whereabouts. David had been seen by several people near the abandoned cabin, but when confronted, he became defensive. At one point, he even accused the investigators of harassing him, but the more questions they asked, the more suspicious his behavior became. His stories seemed to change with every interview, and he refused to cooperate fully. Some witnesses even claimed they had seen David near the cabin just hours before Rachel's death. There were also reports from several townspeople who claimed to have seen Andrew Monroe in the area that night. Some even swore they saw him parked near the cabin, though no one could provide concrete evidence to back up their claims. Andrew's alibi, he was supposedly visiting a friend out of town, was never fully confirmed. Even though he seemed unperturbed by Rachel's murder, something about his calm demeanor felt off to the investigators. One evening, a bartender in town came forward and revealed that she had seen Andrew and David in the same bar on the night of Rachel's death. They hadn't spoken to each other, but they had both been drinking, and their presence at the bar raised questions. Had the two men been involved in the murder together? Or had their connection simply been coincidental? Each conflicting testimony raised more questions than it answered. No one knew exactly what happened that night. Every lead seemed to dissolve the moment it was pursued. This case was beginning to feel like an elaborate game of cat and mouse, with the truth just out of reach. Chapter 8. The Final Clue. As the investigation reached its breaking point, Emma Monroe found herself unable to shake the feeling that she was missing something critical. The police had grown weary, and the town was becoming restless. Many had begun to whisper that the case would never be solved, but Emma refused to give up. Determined to find the missing piece of the puzzle, she went back to Rachel's apartment, searching through the things her sister had left behind. Emma found herself sifting through Rachel's personal belongings with an almost obsessive focus. She discovered notebooks, receipts, and even an old journal that Rachel had kept for years. But one entry in the journal stood out from the rest. "The shadows are closing in on me. I feel like I'm being pulled into something I don't understand. It's like a game, but I'm not the one playing." Emma's heart skipped a beat. These words felt like a cry for help, but what did they mean? Rachel had written this entry only days before her death. Could it be that Rachel had stumbled upon something she wasn't supposed to? Could the shadows refer to the unknown forces that had played a role in her death? Or was Rachel simply paranoid, overwhelmed by the stress of her secret life? As Emma reread the passage, she recalled the strange call the police had received weeks earlier. "You're looking in the wrong place. Look into the shadows and you'll find your answer." Was this the connection she had been missing? Had the killer or someone involved been trying to steer the investigation in a specific direction? There was no time to waste. Emma knew she had to uncover what Rachel had gotten tangled up in, no matter how dark or dangerous it might be. The final clue was within her sister's own words. But what could it mean? Chapter 9. The psychic's vision in desperation. Emma turned to Claire Wallace, a local psychic who had been known to provide visions that sometimes led to breakthroughs in criminal cases. At first, Emma had been skeptical, but at this point she was willing to try anything. Claire had been in town for years, and her reputation as a medium had grown as a result of her accurate readings. When Emma met Claire, the psychic immediately picked up on the heavy energy surrounding the case. She looked deep into Emma's eyes and spoke softly, as though she were tapping into something beyond the physical world. "I've seen this before," Claire said, her voice trembling slightly. "There's a shadow that's been following Rachel. It's not just a figure, but a force, a presence. I can feel it like it's been looming over her for a long time. She didn't know what it was, but she could sense it, and that's why she wrote about the shadows closing in." Emma listened intently, her mind racing. Could Claire be talking about the criminal organization that she suspected Rachel had unknowingly gotten involved with? Had Rachel somehow become a target of something far larger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined? Claire continued. Rachel saw things, heard things, and even spoke to someone who was involved, but she didn't know who to trust. It was like she was a pawn in a game she didn't understand. Whoever's behind this has been watching you all along. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Had Rachel been targeted because of something she had unknowingly discovered? Had she crossed paths with a shadowy criminal organization that operated in the dark corners of the region? Claire's vision was unsettling but clarifying. It was as if Rachel had been trapped in an invisible web, a web that had been spun long before her death. Now, Emma understood that Rachel had been a victim of forces beyond her control, but the question remained: who was behind it? Chapter 10. The Final Revelation. Despite Emma's tireless efforts, the full truth remained hidden in the shadows. But as the investigation reached its conclusion, Emma discovered something that tied everything together. The organization that Claire had spoken of, the one that had been tracking Rachel, was a covert criminal syndicate operating under the radar. Rachel had unknowingly stumbled across their operations through her charity work. She had unknowingly helped fund their activities, perhaps without even realizing it, as they used her good name to gain access to various resources. The syndicate had been using Rachel as an unwitting pawn in a much larger game of deceit and manipulation. Emma learned that Rachel had recently uncovered information that could expose the syndicate's illegal activities, and she had been planning to go to the authorities. Her death, Emma realized, wasn't random. It was a calculated act of silencing someone who had unknowingly become a threat. But who within the syndicate was responsible? Was it someone close to Rachel? Was it David? Andrew? Or was it someone who had managed to remain completely hidden? The more Emma uncovered, the more she realized how deep the corruption went. How many people had been involved in keeping this secret for so long? The final revelation was chilling. Rachel had become entangled in a world of criminals, but not through any fault of her own. She had been manipulated, used as a tool, and ultimately eliminated when she became a risk to their operations. The true mastermind behind Rachel's death, however, was someone still hiding in plain sight, and they had done everything they could to keep the truth buried. But despite the haunting discoveries and newfound understanding, Emma could never bring herself to fully trust that the case was over. The shadows that had haunted Rachel, those same shadows, continued to loom over the investigation, and somewhere in the depths of the darkness, the person responsible for Rachel's death remained out of reach, waiting for the next victim. Despite Emma's tireless pursuit of the truth, the case remains unsolved. The cryptic messages, the shadowy figures, and the dark criminal syndicate that Rachel unknowingly crossed paths with still linger in the background. The haunting realization that Rachel's death was not the result of a random act of violence, but rather a calculated execution by powerful forces, leaves a chilling scar on the town of Laurel Ridge. Emma's journey into the depths of her sister's life has changed her forever. She uncovered more than just the hidden details of Rachel's past. She discovered a shadowy underworld of manipulation and deceit. What began as a desperate search for answers turned into a confrontation with something much larger than herself. As the investigation deepens, Emma remains haunted by the knowledge that the killer, or those responsible, remain free, still lurking in the shadows. And while the truth about Rachel's murder may be out there, it's clear that the people behind it have successfully hidden their tracks, using deception and fear to cover their involvement. For Emma, the final revelation that Rachel's death was orchestrated by those who had used her charity work to fund their illegal activities is both a tragic and sobering conclusion. What Rachel unknowingly uncovered was far more dangerous than anyone could have anticipated, and she paid the ultimate price for it. Now, with the case still open and the killer's identity unknown, Emma wonders if the truth will ever be brought to light. Will justice be served, or will this murder remain one of the many unsolved mysteries that continue to haunt the world? The shadows that followed Rachel continue to follow her sister, leaving Emma with one final question. Could the same fate befall anyone who unwittingly becomes entangled in a dangerous world of criminal deceit? While the case may remain unsolved, one thing is certain: the shadows will never forget. And neither will Emma. She knows the truth is buried somewhere, waiting to be revealed. But until then, the story of Rachel Monroe will serve as a chilling reminder of how easily life can be upended by unseen forces, and how little we may truly know about the people around us. The dangers of secrets and deception. One of the most painful lessons learned through Rachel's death is the danger of keeping secrets, especially secrets that involve other people. Rachel's hidden relationship with David, her lack of transparency about the threats she faced, and her unaware involvement with the criminal organization all contributed to her tragic end. Keeping things hidden can have dire consequences, especially when others are involved in the secrets you keep. The shadow of the past. Another lesson is that the past can have a much greater influence on the present than we often realize. The cryptic warning about the shadows closing in on Rachel was not merely a metaphor. It was a warning that there were forces at play in her life that were beyond her control. The past, with its hidden agendas, can follow us in ways we might never expect, impacting our future and even determining our fate. The importance of trusting your instincts. Emma's determination to uncover the truth, even when others gave up, shows how important it is to trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Despite the investigation's many twists and dead ends, Emma's relentless drive for answers ultimately brought key details to light. Her refusal to stop searching, even when the case seemed hopeless, is a powerful reminder of the importance of perseverance and following through. The involvement of the unseen forces. Rachel's involvement with the criminal syndicate was not the result of her actions or decisions alone. She became a pawn in a game orchestrated by people in the shadows. The case highlights how sometimes even the most innocent of people can find themselves drawn into a dangerous world due to forces beyond their control. This emphasizes the importance of vigilance and awareness of the networks and systems that influence the world around us. The impact of crime on communities. This case also reminds us of how a single violent act can ripple through an entire community, shaking it to its core. While Laurel Ridge appeared to be a peaceful and quiet town, the murder of one of its beloved residents revealed the hidden complexities beneath the surface. Crime, even in small, seemingly safe communities, can have long-lasting effects on the people and the fabric of that society. This case serves as a cautionary tale for communities everywhere. Darkness can exist in places you least expect, and vigilance is key. The power of shadows. Finally, the case reinforces the theme of shadows, the literal and metaphorical shadows that influence our lives. Whether it's the shadow of a hidden past, the presence of a criminal syndicate lurking in the background, or the eerie sense that something sinister is always just out of sight, the shadows represent the unknown and the dangerous. This serves as a reminder that not everything we see is the whole truth. There are layers to every situation, and sometimes the truth is hidden in the darkness, waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey into murder in the shadows. The haunting case of Rachel Monroe continues to leave its mark on the town of Laurel Ridge, and the killer remains out there, still lurking in the shadows. What do you think happened that night? Could the truth finally come to light, or will it remain buried in the darkness forever? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories here on Beneath the Surface. The Dark Side of Crime.